Fauch.org. Hello, I'm going to the famous offshore tax haven, the Isle of Man, all alone with almost no money, no film crew, no makeup or friends except for that one I met. Just myself trying to hide my money and follow the story of man. I visit many of his magnificent castles, learning about his people through his museums and going deep underground to retrace his history. We're also going to confess our sins in his beautiful churches and learning about the story behind his historical landmarks, as well ending the day on a spectacular beach, not to mention getting around the old way and dining out on a tight budget. All done under 3 days, all done safely, inexpensively, and easily. The DIY destination, the Isle of Man, and you are invited. We are so fortunate to live in a small world with so many cultures, so much beauty, and so much diversity. The world waits for no one, and it's up to each of us to discover its magnificent destinations. I want to make travel accessible to all of us by showing how it can be done safely and inexpensively. Situated in the Irish Sea between United Kingdom and Ireland, the Isle of Man is a self-governing British Crown dependency and has been inhabited since 6500 BC. Over the centuries, this isle has exchanged hands multiple times and famous in recent history and known worldwide as a tax haven for the rich. However, there is more to the monetary wealth. That is why I'm here, to get to know about its proud people and its history, to experience the rich heritage and its unique Gaelic culture, and learn the Manx language, to discover many of their achievements, including having the world's oldest continuous parliament and being the first national legislative body to grant voting rights to women, and being awarded the Biosphere Reserve status by UNESCO. Of course, to find a rich Manx wife. Just joking. If you're fit and ready for some real challenge, feel free to swim across the Irish Sea. It's only 180 kilometers from Dublin and 230 kilometers from Liverpool, so make sure to pack light and stock up some Gatorade. The patient and the scenic way is the ferry, connecting the capital city Douglas to Dublin, Belfast, Liverpool, and Heysham. The journey takes about 3 to 4 hours depending on the route, but for me, I'm neither fit or have the patience, and being a solo traveler is not going to be too romantic. So my solution is a 45 minutes flight from Belfast. However, there's also scheduled flight from Dublin and cities across the United Kingdom. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we landed. I'm competing with the airphone. Okay, here. So we have landed and it was going to be disembarking. I'm going to go first. I'm in no rush today. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Isle of Man. Wow. It is probably going to be the strangest place I ever will go to, but while we're here, let's start exploring. It's almost guaranteed you'll be flying in from Ireland and the United Kingdom, therefore no immigration control, yay. The only holdup is this island is not cheap. You'll need to have some cold hard cash to get down to the city, or to eat, or to do anything. It's not a cheap destination. I'm not surprised if the crazy rich Asians are here. If you want evidence the Chinese are conquering this planet, just look at this. They're even here in the middle of nowhere. Go China! Two things you probably need to do. First, get one of these go-karts, and what that go-kart is, get you access to all the trains and buses, all the trolleys, every type of transportation here, and also get you access to all the major attractions free of charge. It costs £65. It's valid for 5 days. It's quite a bargain. Oh, and by the way, the bus comes to airport every 15 minutes, and I think look at that. Such a good timing. I am a very lucky man. The bus departs every 20 minutes, and the journey takes about 30 minutes to the Douglas Town Center. If you don't plan to buy the Go Explore cards, the fare will set you back £1 or so. No big deal for those crazy rich Asians. So another thing I recommend you to do while we're on the bus getting to Douglas is go and get a SIM card. It's only £5 and they give you 5 GB of data, so you can look up online for maps, where to go, and as well 100 minutes and free text as well. Hopefully you can make lots of friends. Yeah, with that being said, I think our stop is coming soon. Douglas is the capital of the Isle of Man, the seat of the island's parliamentary assembly called Tynwald. Originally a small settlement until it grew rapidly as a result of the links with the English port of Liverpool in the 18th century during the Industrial Revolution. Today, the town is a home to a population of 30,000 residents, over a quarter of the island's population. As well, island's main hub for commercial, legal services, shipping, transport, shopping, and entertainment. Internationally, the town is known for the base of an offshore financial service industry, and even more famous for being the beginning and the end point of the Isle of Man TT, the Tourist Cup motorcycle races, and often called one of the most dangerous racing events in the world. The good news is everything in town is accessible by foot. I recommend you stay near the town center. That is where my accommodation host, the Empress Hotel, is located, right at the scenic promenade. And I'd like to thank them for providing me with a very comfortable stay. Thanks, guys. So we'll start our journey right here at the town center of Douglas. And if you forgot to withdraw pounds during at the airport ATM machines, don't worry, all the banks comes to this island because this is where all the rich people hide their money. So with that being said, let's go find a fee-free ATM machine because this is not a cheap place, not a cheap country. Let's get going. Let's talk about money. Credits and debit cards are accepted everywhere, and majority of the ATM offers free withdrawals. But here's a good advice. If you are a customer of Global ATM Alliance, that includes Deutsche Bank, Bank of America, Scotiabank, you can come and withdraw money here at Barclays ATM at no charge. After you take out the money, the max pound, they are not convertible outside the island. Go inside a bank and convert it back to pound sterlings. So you can spend it here, and the remaining sterlings you can use it back in UK. So let's get started. We'll begin our journey on foot from the scenic Douglas Promenade, and the first landmark you'll walk by is the Douglas War Memorial. The memorial was dedicated to the residents of Douglas who gave their life in both World War I and II, where the row of names are segregated by service and the year of death. Including the statue at the top, the memorial stands about 15 meters high and has a stone base rising in 4 steps, up on which a tall column of Max granite surmounted by a 3-ton figure of soldier called the Maxman. The monument was designed by Ewan Curlin and first unveiled to the public in 1922, and initially dedicated to only the fallen member of the World War I. It was designed to have a flower garden and guardrail surrounding it, and stands on what was once a bandstand area. The front facade featured a sculpture of a wreath and holy cross. Rows of names and covered vases for flowers are prefixed to the base. The memorial was finally erected in May of 1924, and later the name of the fallen World War II member were added. Along the Douglas Promenade, you discover its fascinating history from the Victorian era through to the present day, including many historical structures built in different time periods. The most notable is a marine garden, built between 1872 to 1882. In the early 1930s, further extension including the part many refer to as a sunken garden were added. Additions include seating, shelter, a 200-foot boat pool, a illuminated fountain, a sundial with 8 faces, and a sculpture depicting the wreck of St. George. The sculpture by Michael Sandel shows Sir William Henry and his crew saving survivors from shipwreck and honoring the courages of the lifeboat crew down through to the ages. Just a short walk from the promenade, you'll find undoubtedly the best place to learn about the history and the culture of this island, for free. The Max Museum was established in 1922 and partially housed in the former hospital building. It served as a national museum with the aim of preserving the island's culture and historical heritage, and this is where over 100,000 visitors come each year to discover the wonder of our natural world to road racing legends. So this Max Museum is actually a pretty cute little museum here. It has a quite extensive collection dedicated prehistoric archaeology, museum natural history. It also has an art gallery and as well it serves as a national archive. So come and check out because the admission is free. The museum covers 10,000 years of the island's history, from the Stone Ages to the modern era as it is presented through film, galleries and interactive displays, and showcase how the island changed from being the center of the Celtic kingdom of man to a Victorian holiday destination. So if you like Vikings, there's a whole section dedicated to Vikings in this room. It has a replica of the boats they used, the tools, artifacts. Also really interesting display of how they live, as well as also stoneworks. The museum was expanded and was significantly remodeled between 1986 to 1989, and a large extension including a lecture and film theater and an art gallery. The museum was officially reopened by the Queen Elizabeth II, Lord of Man, in 1989. Apart from a number of permanent exhibitions ranging from the archaeological history of the island to a natural history collection, several temporary themed exhibitions are shown each year. One of the most notable exhibits includes A Terrible Ordeal, which focuses on the experience of Manx people in the World War I. Definitely the most popular, the most famous, this island is famous for is the TT race, which happens every single year since 1912. Each summer, an exhibition covering the Ironman TT or the Taurus Trophy, an annual motorcycle event run on the Ironman in May or June of most years since its inauguration race in 1907. The collection showcases history through many artifacts from the early days of this important event to the present. Oh, with the injured feet, I call this determination to hike up to Douglas Head. I don't think it's that much further. Thank goodness for the 3G, it actually works. It was getting late and dark, but I'm determined to end it on a high note. Seriously. So we are going to hike up a rocky point on Douglas Bay to get the best view of the town. Until 1870s, the headland was originally owned by Sir John Goldie Tapman's nunnery estate, and given part of it to the people of Douglas by donating it to the Douglas Town Council. In 2018, the Douglas Borough Council installed a giant poppy as a permanent tribute on the Douglas Head to mark the centenary of the end of World War I. More than 8,200 marksmen served in the World War I, of which 1,165 lost their lives. The most notable structure on the shore of the Douglas Bay is a historic lighthouse. In 1855, the Lord Commissioner of the Admiralty requested to have a lighthouse built at the Douglas Harbor. It was established in 1857 and was built by the engineering brothers David and Thomas Stevenson. The White Tower is 20 meters high and its staircase has 71 steps. The lantern is composed of 8 brilliant reflectors made of pure silver built in 1831. The light flashes every 10 seconds, and this is the only light between the Calf of Man and Point of Ayers, with a distance of 40 miles. The lighthouse became fully automatic in 1986. Now, don't be surprised if the business shutdowns at 5 p.m. and the street is completely deserted. Here is a little juicy secret. Since there's not much to do at night, most Max people just go home and have sex. Or make dinner, then have sex. But before I do that myself, I think I deserve a nice hot meal to get some energy. On a budget, of course. Especially after a half day of walking on a broken foot. The best deal this time of the night is the Chinese food. The price is not bad, but when it comes to authenticity, that's another story. So our food has came, and this is what we got. Let's eat. No comment. It's okay. After getting my dose of noodles, I tried to check out the only thing to do at night, the pub scene, to see if I can burn off my sugar or some exercise with some local ladies, but no luck. I suspect I need to be a crazy rich Asian to land myself a date in this island, so I decided to call it a night. Next morning, it's time to get rolling, but I'm not going anywhere without fueling up. Here is another way to eat well without breaking the bank, or with the help of a rich Max wife. So, if you don't want to pay so much for food, I mean, you can try to eat raw meat, they are not that expensive.
Hello, we're in the Isle of Man. This is Strand Street, Douglas. And we're gonna have a pot day.
Have a great day. It's okay. I make friends out. So the alternative is you can get those meal deals for like £3.50. You get a drink, a sandwich, and a snack. It's not so bad. You are in the middle of nowhere. So the first thing we can do is go and see the world famous, the big Lexi wheel. The easiest way to get there is actually by bus. Come here to the bus station, go to stand number D behind me and take bus number 3. It'll take you directly to the attraction. Now, if you're more adventurous and got a little bit more time, go down the promenade, take a bus to a tram station, and from there you can take the tram up to Lexi as well. It's more scenic, and maybe that's what we're going to do when we come back. That being said, the bus comes every 15 minutes and let's hope it's not late. Fingers crossed. So finally on the bus, and I've been told this is going to be a really quick ride. It's roughly about 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, it's a small island. It is a small island. Seems like you learned something. The name Lexi derives from the Old Norse Lexa, meaning the Salmon River. This village is situated in the east coast of the island. In the 19th century, lead and zinc mining began. It became the largest industry in the area, but ended in 1929. The village also has a fishing industry. Lexi is now mainly a residential and tourist area, the most notable attraction being the world-famous Lexi Wheel. So the bus will actually drop you off over there, as you can see, and that is the entrance on this way. So it's going to be like a really short walk, hopefully. With that being said, let's get going. It's actually quite a walk, but it's okay. It's nice scenery actually. So I think the wheel should be up there in a few minutes or so. There's also a miniature railway for those of you who want an easy ride. This is the same Great Lexi Mine Railway that served the mine beginning from 1823. It's only £2 round trip or free with your Go Explore card. Not so shabby. The Isle of Man contained a large variety of minerals. Copper ore were mined at the Breda Head as far back as the 13th century. Harold, the King of Man, having granted a charter under which the monks of Firmus Abbey obtained working right for this mine. Although there's no exact date for the start of mining at Lexi. However, by 1783, working were being opened, and by 1833, over 200 men were employed in the mine. For this, various minerals were extracted from the mine. The lead ore was the main component of the working, and the substance regarded as lesser value was simply thrown away. The extraction of minerals continued until 1934. It's really narrow here getting up. The prosperity of the Great Lexi can still be seen by its giant water wheel erected in 1854 at the height of its production. It remained the largest working water wheel in the world. The wheel was named the Lady Isabella after the wife of Sir Charles Hope, who was at the time the Lieutenant Governor of the Isle of Man. The water power wheel was used for the mine because the island did not have a supply of coal for the steam power pump. Most of the wheel and rod is made of wood. However, key mechanical parts are metal to provide tension and bearing surfaces. During its 70-year working life, the wheel was capable of pumping 1,100 liters of water a minute from a depth of 200 fathoms. The wheel is currently maintained by the Max National Heritage as part of the Great Lexi Wheel and Mine Trail and become the island's most dramatic tourist attraction. If you are lucky, you can watch the mighty wheel turn and climb to the top of a panoramic view across the Glenmore Valley. I really hope you got better luck with weather than me. Underneath the wheel, you can also explore the trail to the mine ruins and learn about the lives of Lexi miners. Lexi was primarily mined for its lead ore. However, in addition, the mine yields zinc, silver, copper, pyrite, and hematite irons in significant quantities. In part payment for their labor, the owner allowed the miners to keep the copper ore which had been extracted. And by the mid-19th century, this was being sold for £23 per ton. A mixture of copper and lead was sold for £7 per ton. Okay, so one of the things look out is you got to watch your head when you're in here, or else you can be walking without a souvenir. Oh, okay. It happened to me too. I didn't listen. It's all good. In the March of 1904, a fire broke out. Luckily, this instance claimed no casualties. However, the second instance occurred in December of the same year, resulting in the death of 4 miners. By May 1929, majority of the miners had left for the United States, South Africa, and Australia. Continued flooding in the lower reaches of the mine became persistent, and in 1934, the mine was permanently closed. In Lexi, you'll find the only electric mountain railway in the British Isles. This 8 kilometers long railway has been operating since 1895. The track is built with 3-foot 6-inch gauge and electrified with a 550 volt direct current passing through the overhead wires. So I'm inside an old-fashioned train. You can hear it. We can get going. Oh! So the GO car also works here, and we are going out to the Snaefell Mountain. It's a little bit noisy, but it's okay. It's part of the experience. The ownership and control of this railway had exchanged hands many times until it was acquired by the government in 1957. The railway operates from March to early November and links Lexi with the summit of Snaefell Mountain at the peak of 2,036 feet above the sea level, taking 30 minutes for a one-way journey. Arrived. Wow, this is really foggy, and yeah. Snaefell is the highest mountain in the island and also a popular hiking spot. If you are lucky, on a clear day, you may be able to see some or all of the 7 kingdoms: England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, the Isle of Man, and the Kingdom of Heaven and the Sea. But it's not my day today. It's too foggy to see anything. So I'll be hiding inside a cafe here offering hot beverages and refreshment. It's open during the summer months. So we are up in the summit right now. It's really nothing you can see because it's really foggy, so it really depends on your luck. If you need to warm up, which is a bit cold here actually, you can come into this cafe and you can warm up and then basically go out and have a nice walk. There's a lot of time in between the trains, so you can catch the next train down. By the way, so next we're gonna head off to Ramsey, and there's some stuff to do there. I mean, I tell you about it when we get on board, or when we get there. With that being said, let's go.
Yep, no worries, on you go. For you, take the seat on the right side so you can get the seat size. But either way, it's a really nice, slow 45 minutes ride. Enjoy it.
Ramsey is the third largest town on the island and set on the coast with a magnificent backdrop on Northborough Hills. The name of the town derived from the Old Norse meaning Wild Garlic River, and also being a route for Sylvan invasion by Vikings and Scots. Today, it's home to a population of 8,000 residents. So, we have arrived here in Ramsey. As you can see, station's behind me. And next thing we're going to head to is the Grove Museum. It's about 20 minutes walk from the station, and hopefully it's going to appear on my on the online map. The bus station is just a minute away on foot and offers rides to the Grove Museum. The best of all, both the ride and the museum admission is covered under the Go Explorer Pass. Oh yeah! The Grove Museum offers a real insight into the lives of a wealthy family from the Victorian time to the 20th century. The wealthy shipping merchant Duncan Gibb visited the Isle of Man on holiday in 1830s and fell in love with a small secluded cottage for sale on the Adrianus Road on the outskirts of Ramsey. He purchased the property as a summer retreat for his family, along with a governess, 2 maids, and a manservant. Later, it was expanded by adding a second story and building on the 2 rooms at the front with a hallway. Gibbs retired in the 1860s and the family moved here permanently, and the group became a much-loved family home with a thriving farm attached. However, the family wealth dwindled through his 2 unmarried granddaughters who lived here until their death in the 1970s. Soon after, the estate was purchased by the Max National Heritage and turned into a house museum. The house has been maintained pretty much as it was in its Victorian heyday, complete with family furnishings and possessions. There was no running water until the 1920s, and electricity didn't arrive after the World War II. Portable heaters provide extra heat in the winter months. Stone hot water bottles were used to warm the beds and also carried under the clothing to provide warmth. Sadly, still no Wi-Fi internet even to this day. It's very interesting. This house even have a beehive, and it's actually a real beehive. Can you believe it? So yeah.
These are the original curtains, sky curtains.
The drawing room is a typical cluttered Victorian room. The piano in the corner of the room came from the Liverpool house, and all the daughters will have learned how to play. This room was used for parties. The tiger skin rug on the floor reflects the family's connection with India. So this is the master bedroom, and by tradition, each head of the family basically occupied until their passing. It was first occupied by Duncan Gibsons, then it was occupied by the Granny Gibsons, and finally it was occupied by Janet Gibsons until her passing in 1974. The kitchen is located at the back of the house, along with its cast iron range for cooking and hot water. The maid's first job in the morning was to light the fire for hot water for the family to wash. Standing at the side of the range is an earthenware water filter. The final room will have been second bedroom, but now display of Victorian and early century clothing, including a tennis outfit and morning dresses, as well display cabinet with jewelry of the era. So I'm actually here in a bus shelter in Ramsey. It's too late to go up north to see the Aries Point, the northernmost point here in the island. So we're going to head south. Next stop is Peel. There's bus every half an hour, and hopefully it's going to be spectacular. If the timing works for you, I strongly recommend you visit the most northern point of Isle of Man, the Point of Ayers. It's only 10 kilometers from Ramsey, but there's no direct bus service. You have to hike 4.5 kilometers from the little parish of Bry. This is the closest point on the island to the British mainland, being only 16 miles or 26 kilometers south of Barrow Heading, Scotland. Its tidal range provides excellent fishing from the beach. However, the site is most famous for its iconic landmark, the Point of Ayre Lighthouse, first lit in 1818, making it the oldest operational lighthouse on the island, while retaining its first order Fresnel lens from 1890 with a nominal range of 19 nautical miles. In August 2005, the fog signal at the lighthouse was decommissioning owing to the assumed reliance on availability of GPS and modern shipping guidance system. Peel is a cute little seaside town and a small fishing port located at the east side of the Isle of Man. Well, maybe not small, as it is third largest in terms of population of 6,000. And I promise it could only go up. Having a Chinese restaurant is a strong indicator that they are on their way. So get ready to welcome more guys like me. We are taking over the world. Peel was the capital of the island before the King of Man moved his home and military base from the Peel Castle to Castle Rushton. As a real estate investor, I definitely need to check out this old castle to see if it is listed for sale. Maybe I'll get a great real estate bargain. It'll be so cool to own something that's featured on the reverse side of the £10 notes issued by the Isle of Man government. So official. It might be my only way to attract chicks here. To my surprise, the bus will drop you right across. How convenient. Built on the St. Patrick's Isle and once home to Christian missionaries, Viking warriors, and kings, and overlooking the Peel Marina, the majestic fortress Peel Castle is constructed by Vikings after its arrival in 1098 and conquered the Kingdom of Isles and the North State of Dublin and incorporate Peel into their realm, building the castle to secure its rule in the region. This is one of the two wooden prefabricated forts, one now believed to be in the south of the island and the other one on this very St. Patrick's Isle. The Peel Castle was originally built by the Vikings at the 11th century by the King Magnus Barefoot. Now, what's so interesting about it is it's the first Viking fortification that's built from wood. So everything you see here is a part of the castle is original. The only thing that's actually remained from our previous Celtic monastery is the tower, which you see in the back. It is one of the landmarks of this magnificent structure. Another thing is this is actually located on St. Patrick's Isle and is connected to the town by a causeway. After the end of Scottish War independence, when the castle has no longer any strategic importance, it was taken over by a church, who built the cathedral within the wall of the old fortress. In the late 18th centuries, the cathedral was abandoned and the castle hasn't been inhabited since. There was a prior Celtic stone monastic building on the island dating from 6th to 8th century, including the highest point of St. Patrick's Isle. The round tower, originally part of it, with a height of 50 feet. The other visible stonework includes the remains of the building belonging to the former 13th century, the Cathedral of St. Germain. The other building includes a medieval armory and barrack. These are protected by a fortification consisting of 14th century flanking tower, linked by a 15th century curtain walls. The last military construction took place in the early 19th century during the Napoleonic War, and later in the 1860s during the time of Napoleon III. It is considered that a vintage of Magnus Fort was found during the final phase of excavation of 1982 to 1987, when the rough stonework of rampant was uncovered at a depth of 5 meters beneath the surface, just inside the present curtain wall to the north of the cathedral. Now, if you need to confess a sin at a present-day church that's still standing, not a problem. The Church of England moved the original Cathedral Church of St. Germain's into more modern, more comfortable, air-conditioned and heated buildings. It also was renamed the Pure Cathedral, then it was rebranded as the Cathedral of the Isle of Man. The church on the St. Patrick's Isle fell into the ruins in the 18th centuries. After a considerable period of debate over who owns the ruin and the site, it was decided not to rebuild the cathedral. The present-day building was constructed in 1879 to 1884 to replace the St. Peter's Church in Peel's Marketplace and consecrated in 1895. In 1980, the status was elevated to a cathedral by the Act of Tynwald. So we are taking this bus to continue on to the Temple Hill. It's only like 5 minutes away, that's what the driver said. It's a hope the weather cooperates, fingers crossed. Our next stop is a small village of St. John's in the island's Central Valley. The town centers around the Tynwald Hills, one of the island's most distinctive landmarks. This is also a powerful symbol of the Isle of Man's independence as a self-governing crown dependency. The name Tynwald is derived from the Old Norse word meaning the meeting place or the assembly. Tynwald Hill has its name in Viking origin. It means Parliament Field. So what's so interesting about this exact spot is from the time immemorial of National Assembly of Manx people on this island have been coming here to this exact same spot to pass new laws and proclaim them on every single 5th of July every single year. So you can almost say this is the first parliament of Isle of Man on this exact site. The Tynwald Hill, which measures 12 feet high, is thought to be made from piled stone bonded together with soils from all of the island's 17 ancient parishes. The small site was used for public assembly, which dates back to the 10th century. It is known as Midsummer Court. It is attended by the member of 2 branches of Tynwald, the House of Keys and the Legislative Council. The Lieutenant Governor, the representative of the Lord of Man, presides over the assembly except for the occasion when the Lord of Man or another member of the British royal family is present. Although the origin of the man-made Tynwald Hill are unclear, but existed by the end of the 14th century, the site was used in 1393 for the inauguration of Sir William Lescope, and again for 1408 for the inauguration of Sir John Stanley as a Lord of Man. Its first recorded use for promulgation of law dates to the 24th of June 1417, when Sir John Stanley presided. Today, the island's permanent assembly is held in Douglas. However, during the Tynwald Day each year, the site plays a host of open-air meeting of the island's parliament. It is believed that the traditional open-air ceremony, which takes place on July 5th, the date of the pagan fest of Midsummer, was established by Norse Viking settlers over 1,000 years ago. The hill thought to have been built in the 13th century and making it the oldest continuous parliament in the world. Originally, Tynwald's business was debate here before the proclamation on the hill. Now it just involved the signing of the day's proceedings. Facing the hill occupy a church that plays a unique role in the relationship between the church and the state. The first documented evidence for a chapel was in 1557, and in the late 17th century the church was in ruins, and Bishop Wilson initiated the rebuilding of the chapel. Until the 19th century, the main function of the chapel was as a courthouse. The third Duke of Athol sold the sovereignty of the Isle of Man to the British government, although he retained the manorial rights and the patronage of the bishopric. Following a dispute between Athol and the British government about the ownership of the chapel, it was locked up and fell into disrepair. By 1782, it was in ruins with no roof, windows, or doors. The dispute was finally settled and the chapel was rebuilt, but by the 1840s it was once again in poor condition. The chapel was eventually completely rebuilt in 1852 with money provided by the British government and the public appeals. It is built in the 13th century Gothic style with granite from quarries on the South Barrow. In 1949, the chapel became the parish church for the newly created parish of St. John. It was getting late, and I took a bus back to Douglas, and yes, it was after 5 when I arrived. Once again, there's nothing to do, except for one thing, which I'm really good at, eating. Should I say finding cheap eats? Come on, don't I deserve some credit? At nighttime, there's really not much of a choice when it comes to food. But there are a few pizza places and a few Middle Eastern places where you can eat until 3 a.m. It's actually not that bad. So for £6, I got chips, a drink, and also a burger. Next morning, my adventure on the Isle of Man continues, and I'm determined to make the most out of my last day here. So today we're heading off to Port Erin, but before we get there, there's one stop, I think an interesting one, we're going to make. It's, if you like airplanes and military and things like that, you're in for a treat. It's a nice museum called the Aviation and Military Museum, close to the airport at Castletown. So this is going to be a quick ride. I will see you there. The Max Aviation and Military Museum offers an exhibit that tells the history and amazing story of the civil and military aviation in the Isle of Man, with a focus on the people who serve in the armed forces both on and off the island. One of the sections is dedicated to Max Regiment, which is the most successful Allied anti-aircraft unit of the World War II. The regiment saw actions in England during the Battle of Britain and later in Africa, Italy, and other parts of Europe. This is the Max Aviation Military Museum, and it's actually located 2 blocks away from the airport terminal, and it's also free, which is really nice, but donation is welcome. And it was formed in 1995 by the member of the Preservation Society, who each decided to donate all the artifacts they have and form a museum like this to commemorate and focus on the 1938 formation of Max Regiment, which was sent to Liverpool in 1939 to defend the vital Porkson docks.
And this was to amount to 60 officers and 300 cadets. The regiment were...
Other exhibition contains many artifacts and mementos from this time period, from medals, commemorative tins issued to the servicemen from the Princess Mary, and postcards sent to the men serving at war. Those personal artifacts and their stories are both very moving and also inspiring, and those at the museum hope to do these servicemen justice by telling their real story at their time at war. The exhibition consists of everything from a single button to a full-size airplane. The artifacts in the collection include the relic from the aircraft accident, a rare self-propelled bolt for a 40mm gun, and a rare unique items recovered from the Irish Sea.
Not throw them out too readily on medical.
Don't start any.
The open-air exhibit includes a Bell-fed aircraft and a historic radar, as well as a memorial garden honoring the Canadian servicemen killed on the island during the World War II. I took a bus to a nearby Bellisella railway station, hoping to try out one of these really cool trains. But there's just one problem. Now I really want to try the steam train, but you know, it's only every 2 hours and the next one leaving in 50 minutes. I just don't want to waste time, let's put it this way. But you know, the bus leaves every 15 minutes from here. I guess bus it is. Castletown is only 1/2 kilometers away from the museum. The town is made out of 4,000 residents along its small winding street, picturesque fishing cottages along the harbor, and a Viking castle that towers over the center of the town. This is what I'm going to sugar up before conquering this town. Alright, so we arrived in Castletown. Actually, the bus will drop you off right across to the castle, and there's a nice spot here for you to have lunch, and that's what I'm going to have. So same thing is co-op across the street. Meal deal, cheap meals, 3.5 pounds. You get a main, this time no sandwich. I'll go with a salad, a drink, and as well as a snack. I'm going with pineapple this time. One of my favorites. Castletown was the capital of the island until 1869, and its root can be traced back to 1090. This building is a former meeting place of the House of Keys. Originally, Tinlaw had 32 members, and by 12th century, this dropped to 24 members. By the 16th century, Tinlaw consists of upper and lower house. The lower house was known as 24 Keys. By 1869, Douglas has replaced Castletown as the capital of the island. This building was considered too small to serve the lower house of the Tinlaw, and in 1874, the House of Keys was also moved to the courthouse in Douglas. Across from the old House of Keys is a mighty Castle Ruston overlooking the market square. The Castle Ruston is one of the best preserved medieval castles in the world and was once home to the King and the Lord of Man. Today it serves as a museum and an educational center complete with era-accurate decoration and lifelike settings, earning a reputation as the best example of a medieval castle in Europe. The construction is thought to have taken place during the 10th century reign of the ruler, the King of Man and the Isles. The oldest artifacts were found dated to 947 and includes a reference to the last King of Man, Magnus Olafsson, which is believed to have died in the castle. The castle was developed by successive rulers of the Man between 13th and the 16th century. The limestone wall dominates much of its surrounding landscape, serving as a point of dominance for various rulers of the Isle of Man. By 1313, the original keep reinforced with a tower to the west and the south. In the 14th century, the east tower, gatehouse, and a curtain wall were added. The keep of the Castle Ruston's first line of defense is an 8-meter high outer wall, protected by a drawbridge and a fortified inner guest house entrance with 2 portcullises. The castle also includes a medieval chapel housing the castle's clock mechanism. The still functioning Castle Ruston's clock is a notable landmark in Castletown, having been presented by Queen Elizabeth I of England in 1597 while she controlled the island during a dispute. The castle exchanged hands repeatedly between the Scots and the English. The Isle of Man was transferred to Scotland the year after the Magnus Olafsson's death as part of the Treaty of Perth, ending the 1263 to 1266 Scottish-Norwegian War. On May 18, 1313, the Scottish King Robert the Bruce invaded the Isle of Man at Ramsey. The island was captured in 5 days. The only resistance occurred at the Castle Ruston, which is defended by Duncan MacDowell. So we made it to the top right here. My goodness. There's a flag right there. As the defensive value of the castle declined, it was in continuous use as an administrative center. In the 18th century, a mint was located within its ground, as with the still active Selden Law Court. The Max Law books were also stored in the Lord's Treasury within the castle. The castle was also occasionally used as a meeting place in the 16th century for the 24 Keys, where it has no permanent residence until 1710. The 18th century saw the castle in steady decay. By the end of the century, it was converted into a prison. During the castle, Rosslyn served as a prison and held both men and women, with children born by the serving prisoners being allowed to live with their mothers within the prison wall. In 1988, the control of the castle was handed over to a Max National Heritage for restoration. It was officially opened to the public in July 1991 by the Earl of Derby as the first major Max Heritage site. So, if I'm not mistaken, I was invited to the banquet here. Hi guys. Hi. Mannequin can't talk. But we have a roasted pork. And I think it's turkey and all the other goodies. Bon appetit! Most rooms are open to the public during the opening season between March to October, and all the rooms have signs telling their stories. The exhibition includes a working medieval castle where authentic period food is prepared on special occasions. As well, reenactment of various aspects of medieval life are held on a regular basis. By the way, Castle Rosslyn is said to be haunted by a lady ghost walking the castle's drawbridge. So, if you're afraid of ghosts, don't come nearby at night. Be warned. For those of you who have lots of time to kill, consider riding one of these old-fashioned steam trains. There is a service every 2 hours on select days. It's also including a Go Explore card. But once again, I'm on a rush to find my rich wife. Just joking. Alright, I have to rush onto the bus. So next stop, we are heading off to Port Erin. I heard it's really nice. It has beaches. That's not our stop. So it's going to be around 15 minutes from Castletown. With that being said, enjoy the ride. The Port Erin means Irish port or possibly Iron's Port or Lord's Port, a seaside village in southwest of the island with a population of 4,000. The town is famed for its breathtaking views, including the spectacular sunset over Port Erin Bay. The village previously served as a shelter for the fishermen. Its bay provides an easy landing place and fresh water for the crew, as well as a resort town after the steam train came to Port Erin in 1874 and provided a link through Port Mary and Castletown to Douglas. The promenade primarily consists of mini Victorian hotels. However, during the World War II, these hotels and other guest houses formed the core of the internment camp for the alien enemies. After the war, the building was reverted to holiday accommodations. Let's start my venture here literally right at the end of the line on the platform of the most southerly stop on the Isle of Man Steam Railway and beside the Port Erin Railway Station. The Isle of Man Railway Museum is a small museum showcasing and charts the history of the steam-powered railway from its inception in 1873 to the present day, including now defunct line which used to serve Peel, Ramsey and Foxdale. First opened in 1975 and now open daily throughout the summer month. It has an extensive collection of locomotives like loyal trains, rolling stocks, memorabilia, old posters, and interpretive displays mounted on the wall of the waiting room and the booking office. As well, the island's only railway simulator where you can get a first-hand experience on driving a diesel train. To hop onto an actual train that was used in the past, and I think I might change careers actually. It looks interesting. The main exhibition hall is housing a converted bus garage that was once belonged to Isle of Man Road Services, itself a division of the old railway company which was nationalized in 1976. Exhibit in the museum include 2 engines and 2 coaches as well as other equipment from the railway. However, the real treasures are the royal carriages which carried the Queen and the Queen's mother in 1963 and Queen Elizabeth II in 1972. A changing career is a big decision, and you definitely need a good place to think, really thinking it over. The good news is there's a perfect place that's just a stone throw away. There's Port Erin Beach. It's very, very, very scenic. This is the best beach on the island and all-time favorite for the families, as it has many facilities, including a boardwalk for burning calories, I mean jogging, 2 swim rafts, ice cream, cafe, and something we cannot live without, of course, the clean toilets. The beach sits inside a sheltered bay bordered by tall cliffs of Brether Head to the north. The west-facing beach has a stunning sunset and view to the Irish coast and the Mount Alborn in the distance. If you love water sport, there's many local businesses offer rentals for kayak, paddleboard, as well as licensed course in sailing and powerboat. If that is too extreme for you, not a problem. There's a small pier by the Raglan Pier and the lifeboat station. As well, the rocks at the southern end of the bay where you can catch fish fresh. Oh yeah, the Isle of Man is surrounded by sea. There is no way you won't be able to walk away without some fresh catches or screw up the seafood. Some of the tasty fish species you expect to catch include padlock, weasel, gray method, merguel, and pace. Now, here is a little advice. The best fishing time tend to be on the incoming tides 3 hours before the high water and a couple hours after. But beware of the state of the tide and keep your eye on the rising water to avoid being cut off from the shore. It's getting late and I'm not leaving this island without experiencing its iconic steam trains. So let's head back to Port Erin Railway Station and not taking the risk of missing the last scheduled train of the day. First opened in the August of 1874, it is the second established in the western terminus of the Isle of Man Railway and the sole remaining outer terminus of the railway. Until the beginning of the 20th century, the station facilities were very limited, all to the west of the pedestrian level crossing. However, Port Erin developed rapidly, overwhelming the original facilities, which were systematically replaced from 1902 to 1905, with further extension in 1912 and 1914. Finally, I'm ready to depart Port Erin and I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, which is by train. What's so interesting about the train they have here in the Isle of Man is the fact that it's steam train, old-fashioned way. I believe it's the oldest continuing running steam train in the world. So I'm looking forward to experience it. With that being said, I think my boarding time is coming soon and see you on board. I think I have a feeling I might get a private room here. I don't know. I didn't ask for an upgrade, but I think I'm just a good looking guy. Getting it all the way. I actually screwed up on the timetable and realized the next train is actually departing in half an hour. So I can either spit some game to find a rich Max wife or just chill out. Given I don't belong in the highly thought after the crazy rich Asian category, at least not yet, I'll pick the second option, but I'll be chilling a classy old-fashioned style. Now it's really interesting, even the train station waiting area is old-fashioned and it's almost like you're going back in time. We still have another 15 minutes or so and I think that's why I'm going to hang out and just relax. Looks like the cabin's empty. I think I just got an upgrade to a private suite. How romantic. Anyways, join me on board, shall we? Oh, yeah, we need to close that. Established in 1870, the Isle of Man Railway operated a 3-feet narrow gauge steam-operated train. The first 74 kilometers line connecting Douglas to Peel opened on 1st of July 1873. The following year, the second 25 kilometers line opened connecting Douglas with Castletown and Port Erin, and also this is the last remaining line operating. The railway initially considered building its southern route only as far as the Castletown, but due to the increase in tourism in Port Erin and the nearby Port St. Mary, the line was extended all the way from Douglas to Port Erin. Through the years, the company had exchanged ownership and undergone mergers numerous times. Despite the multiple cost-cutting measures, the company experienced financial difficulties throughout most of its history, especially after the loss of the mineral traffic from Foxdale, and consistently faced tough competition for its Douglas to Ramsey route. By 1975, the train only operated between Port Erin and Castletown, and Port Erin and Ballastella in 1976. The company was finally nationalized by the government of Isle of Man in 1978. All but one of the railway's distinctive locomotives were built by Briar Peacock and Company of Manchester between 1873 and 1926, with 16 steam locomotives in total. About 30 carriages remain on the railway, of which 18 are in service, 2 are in Isle of Man Railway Museum, and rest in storage. Today there are 2 basic timetables, the traditional full weight per day for the bulk of the season, with 6 trains service in the peak seasons. In addition, the evening trains operated on Thursdays in July and August. In 2015, new tourist-oriented dining train often operated out of season, commonly traveling only as far as Santon, Barastra, or Castletown before returning to Douglas. The journey from Port Erin to Douglas by train takes about an hour. If that's too long for you, the bus is a little faster. With that being said, I have returned to Douglas and arrived at the town's railway station just before the sunset. I took my time to walk home along the Calm Promenade, but since arriving on the island, I cannot help but notice a small rock with a tower in the horizon. Sadly, it's pretty inaccessible even for great swimmers like myself. Oh yeah, I'm gonna brag that I was once a varsity rower while in university. At certain times of the year during the low tides, you are able to reach the tower on foot. However, please be aware this is very dangerous and not advised. But luckily, I got a very cool toy. So let's get high. Despite its appearance, this tower has no military or defensive function. The St. Mary's Isles, or the Tower Refuge, is actually a humanitarian shelter for the crew of many vessels which have wrecked on the reef. The treacherous reef which was the tower built on was a notorious hazard to shipping. It was previously often responsible for damages and sinking of ships, the most famous being the steamer RHS St. George, when it was foundered on the rock in the early hours of November 20th, 1830. The tower was constructed through the endeavor of Sir William Henry, who had been instrumental in civil rescue of sailors stranded on the rock. The first stone was laid in 1832 and the first flag was flown on the tower the following year in 1833. The structure is castellated in the style of 13th century, having a hanging proppet and corbels similar to those at Peel Castle and Castle Ruston. The tower provides both a visible warning for the incoming ship and a refuge for those in distress. Next morning marks the start of the end of my magnificent journey to the Isle of Man, and I almost didn't end up leaving. The Isle of Man Sea Terminal is located right on the Douglas Promenade. There's regular connection between Douglas and Heysham in England. As well, during the summer travel peak season, there's also connections to Liverpool, Belfast, and Dublin. The travel time for most routes are approximately 3 to 4 hours, and I was totally excited to hop on board. I heard it's very romantic and scenic. But I screw up big time. So I was very careless to make a costly mistake. I went to the what's called the ferry dock here in Douglas like 15 minutes before departure, and the gate is already closed. The cutoff is after 25 minutes. So if you want to take the ferry, show up early. Just because it's not a flight, that does not mean you can just get on whenever. So I'm heading out of the airport right now because I just bought a ticket, very expensive ticket to Dublin, but I have no choice but to get there. However, on the bright side, my Go Explorer card is still valid. There's regular bus to the airport departing every 20 minutes from the promenade, right across on the sea terminal, and the ride takes about a half an hour. I strongly recommend you arrive at the Isle of Man airport no less than a month before departure time. Just joking. I mean an hour beforehand. There's regular scheduled flights to cities in Ireland and the United Kingdom. Majority served by British Airways, Aer Lingus, and EasyJet. With that being said, this marks the end of my magnificent journey to Isle of Man. The Isle of Man has a reputation as an offshore financial center, and many come to seek prosperity. But I didn't come here with this goal, rather with a purpose of discovering its inner soul by looking beyond its image and to demystify this little island of 90,000, to showcase that it has more than the financial wealth and being home to affluent bankers. I come to seek and understand other type of wealth, its abundance of wealth in culture, with its distinct language, its way of life, and its rich heritage. Its abundance of spectacular nature, from the pristine beach to the unspoiled mountains. Its abundance of rich history. Its proud citizens served and made contribution to the both world wars and beyond. Most importantly, its abundant in welcomeness and the warm hospitality from the people of Isle of Man. I invite you to visit these magnificent destinations and to feel the heartbeat of this Celtic land. And finally, to discover your very own inner max within. Slemnyet.